If tomorrow your career title disappeared, would you still know who you are? Most of us have never even asked that question. From childhood, we are trained to answer in terms of work. In the West, when you are 5 years old, adults lean down and ask, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And what they mean is, what job will you have? Doctor, engineer, teacher, soldier? That question shapes our entire identity. We are rewarded when we give the right answer. Parents beam with pride when a child says, "I want to be a lawyer." Teachers smile when you choose a respected profession. From the very beginning, we are taught that our worth equals our career. But what happens when that career is gone? A successful American lawyer spends 30 years in the courtroom. When he finally retires, he falls into depression. Without the title of attorney, he no longer knows who he is. A decorated soldier comes home, takes off the uniform, and says openly, "I do not know how to live as anything else." In many European countries, when factories closed, entire communities lost not only their income, but their sense of identity. They were not just unemployed, they were no one. History tells the same story. Diocletian, the Roman emperor who once ruled the known world, resigned from power, and in a rare moment of honesty, he admitted he no longer knew who he was outside of being emperor. Imagine that. The most powerful man of his age reduced to confusion when stripped of his title. This is the hidden trap of modern life. We have come to believe that who we are is the role we play. We confuse the mask with the face. We confuse the title with the self. And that confusion may be the greatest mistake of our lives. Why did this mistake happen in the first place? Why do entire generations grow up believing they are nothing more than their career title? The answer lies in three powerful forces that shaped modern identity. The first force is culture and education. From the moment we enter school, we are told to dream of jobs, not of lives. A child who says, "I want to explore" or "I want to create" is often met with silence. But the child who says, "I want to be a doctor" is praised. The system rewards clarity in terms of occupation, not clarity in terms of being. We learn early that approval comes when we attach ourselves to a role. The second force is the rise of industrial economics. In the age of factories, a person was valued by output. How many units did you produce? How many hours did you work? Human worth became measured in productivity. If you were not producing, you were considered useless. This logic carried into the modern office. The title on your business card was not just a description of work. It became your currency of existence. The third force is the structure of modern society. Today, identity is built around LinkedIn profiles, resumes, and introductions. In America, when two strangers meet, the first question is, "What do you do?" And everyone knows the real meaning. It is not, "What do you love?" It is, "What job title can define you?" The more prestigious the title, the more respect you receive. Real lives illustrate this trap with painful clarity. A soldier who once commanded respect on the battlefield takes off the uniform and suddenly he is invisible in civilian life. A corporate executive who loses her position finds that friends stop calling. The moment the title vanishes, the social mask is torn away, and the person underneath is left confused and exposed. History adds its own warnings. In Victorian England, a man was measured by profession and class. Gentlemen introduced themselves by title before name. To have no profession was to have no identity. In 20th century America, men who lost factory jobs during economic downturns described feeling not only unemployed, but erased. Across generations, the pattern is the same. When the mask is removed, the person is forgotten. Alan Watts captured this perfectly when he said, "Our social roles are masks." He warned that we confuse the performance with the performer. Like actors who have played a part for so long, we begin to think we are the character. But the truth is simpler and harder to accept. The role is temporary. The person behind it is not. And yet this confusion persists because it is comfortable. Masks protect us. Titles make life simple. People know how to treat you when you say you are a doctor or an engineer. But remove the label and suddenly no one knows where you belong. That fear of being undefined is why we cling to the mask, even when it suffocates us. So we must ask again. If the title is a mask, then who are you without it? This question is where the real search begins. Alan Watts once said that the most dangerous mistake a man can make is to confuse his role with his self. A role is useful, but it is not you. The mask is necessary in society, but it is still a mask. Think of how fragile this mask really is. A man spends decades building his reputation as a corporate leader. He is respected, even admired, but the company collapses and overnight he goes from visionary to failure. The same man, the same mind, the same talents. Yet stripped of the title, the world treats him as if he is less than he was the day before. Consider the athlete. While he plays, he is cheered by thousands. He is given status, wealth, and influence. But the moment he retires, the applause fades. Many former players admit they fall into despair when the jersey comes off. They had confused the uniform with the self, and when the uniform was gone, they felt invisible. History offers similar lessons. Napoleon Bonaparte ruled Europe, feared by kings and armies alike. But when he was exiled to Elba, stripped of the title emperor, he confessed that he felt reduced to nothing. The same man who once commanded nations now walked the island as if his existence depended on a crown he no longer wore. The mask had fallen, and without it, even he struggled to see himself. Watts warned us that modern society is like a theater. We put on costumes and take the stage. One man wears the robes of a judge. Another wears the badge of an officer. Another wears the suit of a banker. Each role is important for the play to go on, but none of these roles is the actor himself. When the curtain falls, the actor is still there. The tragedy comes when the actor forgets and believes he is only the role. This is why so many live in fear. If you believe you are the mask, you must cling to it at all costs. You will sacrifice health, family, even your integrity to protect it. Because if the mask slips, you feel like you no longer exist. That is why losing a job can feel like dying. It is not just income that disappears, it is identity. Why do we accept this prison? Because the mask gives comfort. It tells the world who we are without us having to explain. It gives us status and a place in the hierarchy. The mask may suffocate, but at least it is familiar. To remove it would mean facing the terrifying question of who we really are. But Watts turned this fear upside down. He said the moment you realize the role is not you, you become free. You can wear the mask when it is useful, but you can take it off when it no longer serves you. Liberation begins with this simple shift. The stage may burn down, the costume may be torn, but the actor remains. And this leads to the deeper truth. If you are not the mask, then what are you? Watts left us with the freedom to ask. Aristotle, centuries earlier, gave us an answer. He called it telos, the natural purpose of a human life. Alan Watts showed us the danger of mistaking the mask for the face. But if the role is not who we are, then what is? Aristotle answered this question more than 2,000 years ago. He believed that everything in nature has a telos, a natural purpose, an end toward which it grows. A seed has the telos of becoming a tree. An acorn does not become a rose, it becomes an oak. Its identity is written into its purpose. For human beings, Aristotle argued, the telos is not tied to a title or a social role. It is tied to our capacity for reason, for choice, and for virtue. He called this aret, the excellence of developing what is uniquely ours. To live well is to grow into your telos, not to wear the right mask. Think of how this changes the way we see identity. A career title is temporary. a social construction that may vanish tomorrow. But a telos is the deeper current of your life. It is the direction in which your soul wants to grow. When you mistake a job title for a telos, you confuse the costume for the actor. But when you find your telos, the role becomes only a tool, a vehicle for something greater. History and modern life give us examples. Steve Jobs was called many things in his lifetime: dropout, founder, CEO, fired, then visionary again. His titles shifted dramatically, but his telos did not. At every stage, his purpose was to bring art into technology, to make design and creativity part of machines. That thread of creation remained even when the world stripped him of power. Carl Jung began as a physician. Then he became a psychiatrist. Later, he broke with Freud and became a founder of analytical psychology. Finally, he was a writer exploring myth and spirituality. His titles changed again and again. But his telos, the drive to heal the human soul by exploring the unconscious, never wavered. Socrates never carried a title at all. He was not a professor. He did not call himself a teacher. He wandered the streets of Athens, asking questions, probing, disturbing, forcing people to think. His telos was dialogue, the relentless search for truth. History remembers him not by a job, but by the purpose that animated every conversation. Marcus Aurelius wore the heaviest crown of all, the Emperor of Rome. By day, he was commander of armies and ruler of nations. But by night, in his military tent, he wrote reflections to himself on virtue, reason, and mortality. His telos was to live according to logos, to remain a philosopher in the heart of power. His title shifted with the politics of empire, but his essence was the same. Leonardo da Vinci defied categories entirely. At times he was an artist, a military engineer, an anatomist, or an inventor. His patrons tried to label him, but he refused to be reduced to one mask. What united all these roles was his telos, an endless curiosity and the drive to create. His titles were many, but his essence was one. Aristotle called the fulfillment of telos eudaimonia. The word is often translated as happiness, but it means something deeper. It is flourishing, the full flowering of a life that lives according to its natural end. It is not measured in wealth, titles, or status. It is measured in whether you are becoming who you were meant to be. This is why career titles cannot define you. They are masks shifting with time, fortune, and circumstance. But telos is the through line, the deeper identity that does not vanish when roles change. To live by telos is to root your life in what is unshakable. So the question is no longer what job do you have? The question is, what is your telos? And until you can answer that, every mask will feel fragile and every title will feel hollow. If telos is the essence, how do you know when you are living against it? Most men do not wake up one morning with a clear revelation. The truth shows itself in small cracks, in quiet signals that something is off. If you know what to look for, the signs are everywhere. The first sign is exhaustion without meaning. You may not even work the hardest hours, yet you feel drained. Not the physical tiredness of labor, but the inner fatigue of doing what does not fit your soul. You finish each day wondering why the effort feels so empty. That is not normal. That is the exhaustion of living outside your telos. The second sign is chasing rewards you do not truly want. Many men drive themselves forward for titles, money, and applause. They climb ladders, but the higher they climb, the more hollow the view. When the fuel is status rather than purpose, the hunger never ends. You succeed in the eyes of others, but you feel like a stranger to yourself. The third sign is success without fulfillment. You have the house, the car, the position. People envy you. Yet, in quiet moments, you sense a deep void. That emptiness is not depression alone. It is your telos whispering that you have mistaken the mask for the self. The fourth sign is the way you speak about yourself. Listen closely. Do you say, I am a lawyer, I am a banker, I am a teacher? Or do you say, I work in law, I work in finance, I teach? The first reveals identification with the mask. The second leaves room for a deeper identity. Language exposes where you place your worth. The fifth sign is crisis when the role ends. Retirement, layoffs, a sudden injury that ends a career. When the mask falls, many collapse with it. Studies in the United States show that nearly 1/3 of men experience severe depression within 2 years of retirement. A teacher who has introduced herself as nothing but a teacher for 40 years often says, when I stopped working, I stopped existing. The tragedy is not the loss of work. It is the loss of self built on the wrong foundation. History echoes the same lesson. When Diocletian left the throne of Rome, he confessed that he could no longer define himself apart from being emperor. The mask had become the man, and when the crown was gone, so was his identity. The empire he once ruled forgot him, and he had forgotten himself. These signs are not punishments, they are warnings. They are the soul's way of telling you that you are out of alignment. If you find yourself in these patterns, it does not mean you have no telos. It means you are wearing the wrong mask or mistaking the mask for your essence. The good news is that the mask can change. The telos remains. And once you recognize the signs, you can begin the work of separating the two. That is the path to freedom. If the signs show that you are living the wrong telos, what comes next? It is not enough to see the problem. You must walk a new path. Watts told us to step back from the mask. Aristotle told us to discover the telos. Together they give us a way forward, but only if we are willing to do the work. The first step is to separate yourself from the mask. Watts urged people to test this in everyday life. Introduce yourself without a title. Instead of saying, I am a lawyer, say, I help people resolve conflicts. Instead of, I am a teacher, say, I guide students to learn. Notice how this small shift loosens the grip of identity. You begin to see that the role is a tool, not your essence. The second step is to search for your telos. Aristotle believed the soul carries its own direction, but it must be discovered through experience. Ask yourself simple but revealing questions. What makes you forget time when you do it? What feels meaningful even when no one notices? What would you still pursue if money was not involved? Keep a record for 7 days. Write down every moment when you feel alive, not just busy. The patterns will begin to show. History proves this method works. Charles Darwin did not carry the title biologist as a young man. He was simply a curious observer, collecting beetles and fossils. His telos was the pursuit of life's patterns, and that telos led him to change science forever. The title came later. The telos was there from the beginning. The third step is to treat work as an instrument, not an identity. Once you know your telos, you can wear many different masks to serve it. If your telos is creation, you might design buildings, compose music, or build businesses. If your telos is healing, you might practice medicine, write books that comfort others, or simply be the friend who listens. The mask may shift, but the essence is constant. Leonardo da Vinci embodied this. He painted, engineered weapons, studied anatomy, and designed flying machines. His titles were fluid, but all served the same telos of curiosity and creation. To live like Leonardo is to stop fearing the loss of one mask, because another can always be found to serve the same purpose. The fourth step is to develop your arete, your excellence. Telos is direction, but arete is how well you travel that road. Aristotle believed a life of purpose requires cultivating virtues and skills until they become second nature. If your telos is to understand the world, train your mind. If your telos is to build, train your craft. If your telos is to lead, train your character. Excellence is not optional. It is how the telos flourishes. The fifth step is to expand your impact. Watts warned us not to cling to roles, but Aristotle reminded us to act in the world. Purpose is not just for yourself, it is for others. Leverage your telos into action that leaves a mark. Write the book, start the project, teach the lessons, build the community. This is how the inner essence reshapes the outer world. Marcus Aurelius lived this balance. As emperor, he ruled, but as a philosopher, he wrote. His telos was to live by reason and virtue. He did not keep it private, he transformed it into a way of leading, even in war. He shows that telos is not about escape, but about influence. The final step is to live unafraid of losing labels. Once you know your telos, no layoff, no retirement, no exile can erase you. The mask may fall, but the actor remains. That is the freedom Watts promised and Aristotle explained. The path is not quick, but it is clear. Separate mask from self. Search for telos. Use work as a tool. Cultivate excellence. Expand your impact and live beyond labels. That is how you stop confusing yourself with a career title. That is how you begin to live as who you are. We began with a simple but unsettling question. If tomorrow your career title disappeared, would you still know who you are? Most of us, without realizing, have confused the mask with the face. We were raised to believe our worth is our role, our status, our productivity. But Watts reminded us that a role is only a performance. And Aristotle showed us that behind the performance lies telos, the true purpose that defines our essence. The antidote is clear. A career title is a mask. Useful, yes, but never you. Your telos is the deeper current of your life, the reason your soul stirs when you act in alignment with it. Jobs may vanish, titles may fade, but telos remains. That is why the loss of a job does not have to be the loss of self, and why a man who finds his telos can change roles 100 times and still never lose his way. History has shown us both sides. The emperor who lost his crown and lost himself. The teacher who retired and fell into despair. But also the creator like Leonardo, who wore many masks yet served one essence. And Marcus Aurelius, who could be both ruler and philosopher because his telos did not depend on a throne. So let us return to the question, who are you without your title? If you have discovered your telos, the answer is simple. You are the one who creates, heals, teaches, or seeks truth, no matter what mask you wear. And if you have not yet discovered it, then your task is not to cling harder to the mask, but to search for the essence underneath. The day you stop confusing yourself with your career title is the day you begin to live free. Titles can vanish, masks can fall, but the essence once found cannot be taken from you.